I'm very happy to be here in South Carolina. I mean, I just want to mention first that I've copyrighted the 1960s so that anytime it's mentioned here, I get royalties, so just keep it up. I do agree that we're all one, that some of us are more one than others. I guess, you know, obviously the 60s exploded out of the blandness and repression of the Eisenhower-Nixon years. I mean, if I had to think of the first thing I think of about the 50s, it was the Lucky Strike Kid Parade with Snooky Lansom singing "It's a Marshmallow World." And in the 60s, somebody injected acid into those marshmallows. But when I say, but you can see echoes of that now. I mean, in the 60s, abortion was illegal, and I ran an underground abortion referral service. And there were people who, even nurses, who came to me for help after I interviewed a man named Dr. Robert Spencer in Ashland, Pennsylvania, who charged as little as $5 for an abortion. And he became known as the Saint. People came from all over the country to his office in Ashland, which was a little coal town. And when the local motel, they didn't merely tolerate Dr. Spencer, they depended on him economically, because all these women would go to the dress shop and to the restaurant and stay at the motel. African Americans were not allowed to stay at the hotel, so Dr. Spencer built a clinic, built a room in his clinic for them to stay overnight. And now you see, again, all of the advances that were made then after Roe versus Wade. The devil never sleeps, and there's a force trying to go back to those times. But what that decade of the 60s represented to me was an epidemic of idealism. It was where people really tried to live their alternative instead of just planning it. And there was a true sense of community, which is one of the things I'm connecting with now, that sense of community is growing. The difference is now, I think one of the biggest differences is the Internet. In terms of organizing, now I was involved with the Yippies, the Youth International Party, and in order to get, we would manipulate the media by pulling off guerrilla theater acts so that the media would cover them, and in the process would tell when our next demonstration would be. So when money was thrown in the stock exchange from the balcony in 1967, it was amazing to see all of these guys who would be shouting pork bellies and whatever they do there, suddenly diving for dollars, because they had gotten so used to money being an abstraction, you know, stocks and bonds, and they saw actual dollar bills falling, and they stopped the stock exchange for that, and that was announcing, I think, the March on Washington on the Pentagon. And again, we pulled a stunt for that by saying we were going to levitate the Pentagon. And we actually had meetings with the staff at the Pentagon to try and get a permit. And at first they said, well, you know, you certainly can't raise it more than 22 feet because that was the height of ladders. So if they had to pull it down again, at least they could reach it. So then we held a press conference after that, and we learned that as long as you give good quote, they'll give you free publicity. And so when we said that they would only allow us to raise the Pentagon for 3 feet, the reporters dutifully wrote that down and reported that because it was in quotes, so they could get away with it. So at that point, the Yippies were they were an amalgam of stoned hippies and political activists, And as they would see each other more and crossing paths at civil rights demonstrations and anti-war rallies, there was a kind of cross-fertilization that took place, and you could see that the stoners would begin to understand that there was a connection between busting kids for smoking pot in this country and dropping napalm on them on the other side of the globe. And it was just the extension, ultimate extension of that dehumanization.